So 2 things I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Dubai, we're like halfway to Bali now. And actually, Bali's, forgive my geography, not a million miles from Australia either,
No,
right?
Yeah, it's close.
So for me, being from the UK, I'm almost halfway there being in Dubai, and would love to kind of see that part of the world. That's also somewhere I've always wanted to go. But the question I was going to ask was, and I think I mentioned this when we spoke originally and we were talking about Australia, is quite a few people from the UK, or at least people that I know, are actually going over to Australia now and doing like a 2-year visa, working out there. And a friend of mine not long got back from Australia. He was visiting some family out there. And I think it was his first time visiting, and he spent, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks there.
Yeah.
And the way he described it, I don't know the exact area, unfortunately. I want to say like Melbourne, but I might be wrong. He said it was just so different to the UK. And what he meant by that was, well, first of all, the weather's beautiful. He said, the animals and the birds and the things you just see, like the wildlife.
Yeah.
He also said people just were friendly and would start conversation over there.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have the same, but in the UK, if you pass someone on the street, people don't even really make eye contact. People sort of avoid confrontation in the UK.
Yeah, I see.
At least from my perspective. Whereas he said he was just walking along out there. Someone might be walking along at the same sort of speed as you and sort of go, oh, hello mate, like how's it going? And just start chatting to him. He mentioned he was sitting outside of a shop on a bench just with a coffee while he was waiting for his family, and they were in a shop shopping. And a woman came down and sat next to him and just started chatting to him, and he was like, he just didn't ever experience anything like that, and he enjoyed it so much, the way of life and the way, I guess, the culture out there, that he's decided to go out there this year and spend some time there. So do you have a similar, is it like that in Australia? Does it depend where you are? What are your
I think in my perspective, I have a studious friend who flies to London often, and that is her absolute worst, least favorite flight, because the passengers are, her words, very up themselves. And maybe it's a lot worse in the UK, but Australia, I don't think is as utopian as your friend experienced it. Maybe it's like the relative, happiness or the friendliness compared to UK. A lot of my Australian friends would say Australian people are also up themselves. And as an Asian person who grew up in Australia, we experienced a lot of racism as well.
Really?
There was one story that is particularly bad. So my mom was waiting at a bus stop, and in bus stops in Australia, we have a little shelter that looks like a little pod. And she was just sitting there, and these bogans, have you ever heard of the term bogans? No. Bogans are like tradies who are very confident but arrogant. It's kind of like jockeys, but a worse version, like who will drink a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So sort of ratchet but white. That's the description I give about bogans. Yeah. But these bogans were driving in a crappy car, and they spotted my mom and they threw eggs at her, just being, saying the racist like gook, all those slangs. And I experienced those things on a lot more subtle levels throughout my life, and it made me become very strong. So because of those experiences, I don't only have positive outlook on Australia. I think that because also the taxes, like it goes up to 49% in Australia, and it's similar in the UK. Yeah. And during COVID, I think Melbourne was the longest lockdown city of the world, and people were suffering there. So the level of control there is very severe also. It's probably, by the sounds of it, a little bit better version in terms of livability, happiness than UK. But yeah, that sort of still exists, and people are friendly in general. We do say hello on the street if we are walking past each other and there's nobody else. Hey, g'day, mate. And say bye. That's it.
Do people say that? I associate that as being like a typical Australian
We
phrase.
absolutely say that all the time. G'day, mate.
I think Australia is probably one of the only places, as well as the UK, where you use the term mate. Would you say? Or does it get used elsewhere?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's also only Australia. I don't really hear that from other people. For
yeah, I say mate all the time.
Yeah.
Not so much now that I'm here because I haven't got many friends yet. But in the UK, I would say mate quite a lot. Yeah.